You're listening to Podcast PXN, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Let's do this.
Hello everyone and welcome to Podcast PXN episode 70. I am Roshan, aka Roro, and I'm joined today by Dan the Halo Man Prindle. How are you doing today, Daniel?
I'm doing so good. So good.
So good, yes. We've got a lot. Well, not a lot. Not a big news day today, but thank you to everyone listening and watching live and on podcast services. We record every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and on Twitch now, so you can find us there just by searching Podcast PXN, and you shall find us on those platforms. The topic of the show today is CD Projekt Red's development issues. We've got some more reporting from Jason Schreier, or a bigger report from Jason Schreier, digging deeper into what happened there and the ups and downs that brought to us. And so we're going to be talking about that later in the show. But before we do, we start off the show with the PXN news of the week. So let's jump right into it. And the first story today is Sony's new studio is possibly working on existing franchises. So this is coming from IGN. Matt Purslow writes, Sony's new San Diego team is working on existing franchises. So this is a new San Diego one, not to be confused with the one that works on the MLB games. Right. This is a new San Diego studio. And there have been some rumors that this new studio that's being headed by Michael Mumbuar? I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's the one who developed this team. He was put in charge of developing this team in November of 2020, and he has since left. But on his LinkedIn page, he put a Uncharted theory video that people have been kind of using as a hint that maybe this new studio is working on a new Uncharted game. So it says on his account, his latest achievement is having built a brand new all-star AAA action-adventure development from PlayStation based in San Diego and utilizing proprietary engine technology. This team was assembled to expand upon existing franchises and craft all new stories for the next generation of gamers. So, Daniel,
yes.
What do you think this new San Diego team is going to be working on? Existing franchises. There's a lot of existing franchises.
Yeah.
Do you think it's an Uncharted game, or do you think it is something else?
Yeah, it definitely seems like a heavy tease with him throwing that Uncharted video in there. And I don't think that was by accident. I don't know. Maybe it was, but it just seems too, coincidental. But yeah, I'd be totally down for that. Obviously, the end of Uncharted 4 definitely leaves itself open for more Uncharted games. And I think that would be super interesting to see how they develop Nathan Drake's daughter, as well as, old Nathan Drake maybe and old Elena. And I think that would be super cool to kind of see that happen. But obviously this new studio is, as you said, it's in San Diego. So obviously they may team up with San Diego studio currently that makes the MLB games in terms of studio space. So it saves Sony some money there, but obviously it's a different team. So I would be super down for them to make some Uncharted. It is interesting. They say that they're working with proprietary engine technology, which is interesting. I don't know if does that mean they're making their own engine, or is that meaning they're going to license out Naughty Dog's engine? I'm not sure. What do you think about that?
I really don't know. I hope it's not starting fresh. I would love it to be taking from Naughty Dog if they are working on an Uncharted game, because I worry about what they would do if it is an Uncharted 5 game, especially if they're continuing Nathan Drake's story.
Yep.
It's hard for me to trust anybody else besides Naughty Dog when it comes to telling those stories, but I would love more Uncharted, just like you said. I would love to see from more of the daughter. I would love to see what kind of adventure she gets into, if any. But I would even love to see some more Nadine and Chloe adventures, more Lost Legacy type stuff from that franchise. But yeah, go ahead.
Maybe I was just thinking of this, maybe Neil Druckmann. Maybe Neil Druckmann, the head of Naughty Dog, maybe he kind of has like a creative oversight of the next Uncharted game, but San Diego Studios is actually developing it, similar to how Todd Howard is overseeing the Indiana Jones game for Machine Games at Bethesda. But Todd Howard obviously doesn't work for Machine Games; he works for Bethesda Game Studios. So maybe something similar to that type of role for Neil Druckmann to possibly, make us feel a little better about someone other than Naughty Dog working on Uncharted.
Definitely, and fans of Uncharted know how. I know some people like this entry, Uncharted Golden Abyss, on the PS Vita, but I know a lot of people didn't, and that was one of those Uncharted games that I don't think was developed by Naughty Dog, and and which did feature Drake. So
which I thought Golden Abyss was okay. I mean, it definitely
never finished it, so I don't know.
You didn't, yeah.
I didn't finish it,
It definitely didn't get as good of a reception as the mainline games, but I don't know. I thought it was fun. It was kind of a cool take on it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope they are working on another Uncharted game. That would be awesome. But whatever they are working on, I'm sure it'll be exciting when it does come up. Honestly, I can't think of anything else I would want besides a new Uncharted game. Sly Cooper, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what other existing franchises I would.
I'd
want more of.
Maybe Infamous.
Infamous, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it is, we're excited for it. So I hope we get some. Well, maybe not anytime soon, but excited for when that does come to fruition. But moving on to our next story, more Nintendo Switch news. Some good news for the company. Nintendo Switch accounted for 87% of all consoles sold in Japan. So this is coming from IGN again, Item Bankers. With nearly 6 million units sold, Nintendo Switch consoles accounted for 87% of all console sales in Japan. So there's like a little breakdown in here where there were 6.85 million consoles sold in Japan, and the PS4 came in second place with around 543,100, and PS5 255,000 or thousand, sorry. And yeah, it's crazy because those two numbers put together don't even break a million, and yeah, it's insane how much steam Nintendo has just continued to pick up, and it just keeps getting better and better for its life cycle. Like, it just, each year it's out, the better it sells. It's crazy. But it brings me into another story that analysts and industry experts believe that we might be getting a Nintendo Switch by the end of this year.
Switch Pro.
And Switch Pro, yes. Some people believe it might come with the new Breath of the Wild sequel. And with all this information, with how well Switch is doing, I would love it to happen, but I feel like Nintendo doesn't need to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what do you think about this story, and do you think we really will see a Switch Pro?
Yeah. As far as the console sold in Japan, that's insane. Like,
insane, yeah.
how they're doing that. But I guess it makes sense because Japan's still like a mainly like mobile country.
Sure, yeah.
That they just eat up those handheld consoles. So, and yeah, that's super crazy. But yeah, as far as the Switch Pro, I think it would make a lot of sense for Nintendo to release a Switch Pro, especially with the Breath of the Wild sequel, because if we think back, Breath of the Wild, the first Breath of the Wild, garnered so much interest in the Switch that there was more people buying the game than there were people buying the console initially. Like, it's crazy to say, but like that was actually the case initially when the game came out, and it's just mind blowing. So with a game like Breath of the Wild or Zelda, you have this major powerhouse. And if you want to sell a upgraded Switch and package it with it or whatever as a bundle, that makes a lot of sense for Nintendo to do that. I'm still not 100% sure if it's gonna happen though. Like, there's been a lot of conflicting reports. Like, some people saying yes, we're definitely getting a Switch Pro, and then some people saying no, we're not getting one. And it's like, I don't know what to believe, I guess. And I think we talked about this like not that long ago. I think we kind of came up with the consensus that we don't think it's going to be like a PlayStation 4 Pro or Xbox One X. We think it's going to be more like a new Nintendo 3DS situation where it's just going to be a little bit better, but it's not going to be like a full step forward, I guess. So I don't know. That's
Yeah,
kind of
that
up in the air.
yeah, that's where I come down on it too. Where I was thinking about this a little bit more before the show, and I was like, has Nintendo really ever done an upgrade? And they have, just like you said, with the new Nintendo 3DS and with the DS Lite instead of the DS and the Game Boy Advance SP from the Game Boy Advance. But like they're more known for their downgrades, like where they do the 2DSs and
Mhm.
the Game Boy Micros and the Wii Minis, and they do all these. They put out the console and then they put down the Lite version.
Switch
And
Lite, yeah.
yeah, Switch Lite, yeah, it's and when they do the upgrades, it's never to make it like the graphics better or the flow, or having a hard time explaining it, but the performance better of the games. They usually don't do that when they upgrade the console. It's usually just like the new 3DS was like a little nub in the corner, or the DS Lite. It was just so you could the screen had a backlight, so you didn't have to, so you could play it in the dark. It's like these little quality of light changes that sometimes you didn't need, but
Yeah.
in the end usually made it better. So the only thing I could think of, I hope they do it, and I hope it does improve the performance of the Switch. But in just like looking back at Nintendo's history, it doesn't seem like something they focus on really. I could see them making a bigger Switch for sure with a longer battery life. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
I hope they
actually
do it. Yeah,
that's actually a good point. Like a Switch XL, that could be a
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
for sure. That's where I see them going with it, but I hope I'm wrong. I would love to get a Switch that plays those third party games well. Like I could play Outer Worlds on it and it doesn't run terribly, so that would be great.
Yeah. Outer Worlds is a little rough on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. Well, moving on to our next story, Apex Legends new season and legend has been revealed, and and the release date for the new season as well. So Apex Legends is getting a new season, season 8, and it starts on February 12th.
Oh,
And they feature a new trailer also came out with the 16th legend, it says,
nice.
and their name is Fuse. And I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it, the
I've
stories from the outlines.
I have not had a chance to see
No.
it yet. No.
That is okay, but
Okay.
it's an interesting trailer where it kind of goes back and forth between these two characters, Fuse and Salvo. So it's a man and a woman. Starts off as a boy and a girl. They're friends in the beginning, and by the end, they kind of turn into enemies. But in the whole time, I was like, who's going to be the new hero? It was it was a cool watch for sure. But it ended up being the male, and I believe as I said, his name is Fuse. And yeah, so it's going to be coming September 8th. It also might be coming to the Nintendo Switch from some reports on Twitter, where there was uh, I'm trying to read it here from the Nintendo Life article. It appears the game's release date for the Switch may have been revealed ahead of schedule, with a recent Japanese trailer for the game mentioning how the version would be launching the same date as Season 8. So that's be awesome. I would love that. They haven't come out to say anything about it, so I'm a little bit worried. It's 2 weeks away,
Yeah.
but they are known for their shadow drops. So the
Yeah.
game itself was a shadow drop. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of wait last minute to announce this. But if it does come on the Switch, that is definitely going to be a way to bring me back in. So are you excited for the new season? Have you been playing Apex at all?
I keep telling myself that I want
Yeah.
to go back to it, but it's like I never do. And of course, I'll say I don't have time, and I spend all this time playing Master Chief Collection. But yeah, I'd like to go back to it. I really enjoyed my time with Apex and played it for a long time with one or two friends back when it first launched, and many months after that. But yeah, I'm very interested to see this new character and possibly jump back in when it comes out, but I keep saying that, so I can't, I can't keep lying to myself here, Roro. So, but yeah, it's cool that it's coming to Switch as well. Obviously, it comes to a bigger audience by expanding to that platform as well. But I think the interesting thing again is going to be how does it perform on the Switch? Because obviously you have stuff like Fortnite on there, which is similar, but also I feel like Fortnite is a little less demanding in terms of performance because they can scale it really. Like Fortnite has a really good scalability. Like it scales to the lowest of the lows to the highest of the highs. It really has really good scaling. I'm not sure how that's going to translate to Apex because it's a lot more realistic textures, and I guess we'll have to see what it ends up being. Hopefully it ends up at least being good for people on Switch that can't play elsewhere.
Definitely, yeah. That does worry me too. What the performance will be like, what it looks like. Even sometimes in the Fortnite version on Switch is really good, but even Fortnite sometimes has issues. Sometimes, especially in handheld mode when I'm playing, and it's like this. It's pretty rough. So I can only imagine what Apex will look like if it's not optimized correctly. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. But I hope it does come to the Switch because again, it would. Get me to at least dip my toes back in it for a little while. I don't know if I'll stay, but definitely would try it out again. But yeah, moving on to the next story, Hitman 3 review roundup. It's getting some great scores. I'm reading from Nibelian, and then I'll read a little excerpt from one of the reviews. It's getting 5 out of 5s from VG27. 24/7. GameBeat 5 out of 5. IGN gave it a 9. GameSpot gave it a 9. The lowest score was a 3.5 from Hardcore Gamer. So it's doing really well. IGN wrote for their verdict that rich, rewarding, and highly replayable, Hitman 3 is a superb installment of idiosyncratic.
Oh,
but I think. Is that right?
Idiosyncratic. I don't know.
Idiosyncratic.
We don't know what we're doing here. I mean, it's.
I can't. I'm gonna skip that one. But much loved stealth series. The fundamentals haven't changed since 2016, but its collection of outstanding maps makes for a fine and reliable and robust curtain closer to the current Hitman trilogy. So yeah. People are loving it. I watched a couple of streams of it today. People playing it, and it looks gorgeous. Like the locations are beautiful. Like the first mission, I think, takes place in Dubai.
Yes.
Yeah, and there was one time where one of the players was walking up the stairs, and then the sun just came through the windows, and I was like, this game looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't think this person was playing even with the max settings on, so I was like, this is really cool. So I'm excited to play it when I get the time. Yes. But not yet, but I am excited to play it. Have you dived into it yet?
I have not. As we talked about a little bit in the pre-show, I've been running around after work today, so I didn't have time to sit down and play anything yet. So after the podcast, I'll be playing Hitman 3. Nice. But yes, I'm very excited for it. And Ryan McCaffrey had a great preview up, I think, last week for IGN, and he was talking very highly about it. And he's like, man, if it continues on this, it could really be significantly better than 2. And he reviewed 2, and then it came out, and he's like, yes, this is awesome. It is hitting on all the marks I thought it would. And I think the highlights, as you said, is the locations. And I think we talked about this last week, actually, when they officially announced or revealed all of the locations. They're so diverse. Like, every location is completely different, and like the atmosphere feels completely different. Everything it looks so good, and I can't wait to play it. One thing I do need to revise, though, I think I've said on this podcast before that so if you buy Hitman 3, that you would get the Hitman 2 and 1 levels, but that is not entirely accurate. You have to own Hitman 1 and 2, so each game that you own, and then you can import them into 3. So if you don't own them already, unfortunately, you won't get those levels unless you purchase 1 and 2, which I'm sure you can get those on sale at some point, and maybe down the line there will even be a bundle to include 1, 2, and 3 for like $60 eventually, which that might be the path to go because that's a lot of content.
Yeah.
But yeah, very excited to check this out, and it does feel like or so far it looks like a big next gen step for this franchise. So I'm excited and happy for IO Interactive as well, because Square Enix basically threw them in the garbage can and said, "Get out of here." And they're like, "Okay, we're taking Hitman with us," and they've done great. So it's awesome to see.
Yes, definitely. They're closing out the trilogy with a bang. Everybody has been saying great things about it. So super excited for the 007 game that they've got in the works. So that's great. I'm glad they ended this trilogy well and moving on to hopefully something better. So yeah, definitely excited to give that a shot. Moving on to our next story, Naughty Dog is working on a fantasy game, ? This is coming from Dual Shockers. They're kind of reporting on kind of rumors, definitely, but I thought it would be exciting to talk about nonetheless. Ever since the impact of The Last of Us 2, fans of the studio have continuously been wondering what's the next game from Naughty Dog. Whether it's a completely new IP or a continuation of the title, the mystery that veils their next adventure is something Naughty Dog holds close to their hearts. It doesn't help to clear up matters when Neil Druckmann teases on Twitter that the Last of Us 2 developer is making something very cool. So I saw that as well, that he was making something very cool and they were looking for people to hire. Obviously, that got me excited. I just assumed that they're working on factions for The Last of Us. And that's what I thought. That's what I still hope. I don't want it. I would love a new game from them, but man, do I want factions back. But the reason that people think that they're working on a fantasy game is that one of the senior concept artists posted some beautiful artwork that is fantasy based, has a woman knight sitting on a dragon. There's a lot of fantasy genre images here that that seem to be part of the same set. Like they're not one-offs. They seem to be part of the same series, so people believe that maybe they might be working on a fantasy game, and that definitely has me excited if that is true, because of course, everybody knows that I love The Last of Us, I love Uncharted, I love Naughty Dog games in general. So them making something new that is a new IP, I love The Last of Us, I'm excited to dive into something new from them, and fantasy would be really cool. The Witcher didn't do it for me. If anybody could do it, Naughty Dog could probably do it. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think they are working on something new, or is this just this dude sharing his art, which it very well might be?
I would say maybe people should be a little cautious about it, because there are a lot of artists out there that do stuff in their free time and then post to these places, and it's not necessarily related to their work. For example, Halo Infinite's lead artist, actually in the early goings of Infinite's development was posting like new images to his Flickr or whatever those image sites are, and people were like speculating based on that, like, oh, is Infinite gonna have this and this? And he's like, no, this is just my own, made up space stuff, because it was space related stuff, but it wasn't related to Halo at all. It was just his fun, project. So I will caution people with that, but also at the same time, it's very plausible, because I mean, obviously Last of Us is very different than Uncharted. Yeah, they share similarities, but they're very different types of gameplay styles. So it wouldn't surprise me to see like a fantasy RPG or something like that from Naughty Dog. I don't know if it would interest me as much as their action adventure games like Last of Us and Uncharted, because like you said, I'm not a huge Witcher fan. I thought it was good, but I'm just not a big fantasy person personally. And really the only fantasy game that's ever like really grabbed me is Skyrim. And everything else is just kind of, well, we'll see. I don't know. But anything Naughty Dog I'm interested in, and obviously they make technical masterpieces. The game will probably look stunning, so we'll see what happens.
definitely. I again hope they are working on something new, but
Yeah.
a part of me hopes that that thing is The Last of Us factions because I love that mode.
Yeah.
I'm still just after playing The Last of Us Part Two, I was like, I would love to see how this combat works in multiplayer, just how dynamic it is. I would love to see that come back again. So I really hope they are still working on that. But until then, I guess we just speculate for now.
Yeah.
But moving on to our next story, Pokemon is available for pre-order, and new release date has been announced.
Mm.
So fans have been asking for it for over 20 years, and finally it's happening. New Pokemon Snap is coming exclusively to the Nintendo Switch April 30th, 2021. A new take on the 1999 Nintendo 64 original, New Pokemon Snap promises to take players to areas like deserts, beaches, and jungles that are filled with Pokemon. And it's our job, sorry. So I'm saying I am the person. Your job is to observe and snap photos of these creatures in their natural habitats, filling out your Pokemon photo decks in the process. So we got a new trailer, and it's been available for pre-order for a while apparently, but I didn't even realize that myself. But we got the new release date, so now we know that it's actually coming this year.
Yeah.
So the trailer was fantastic. I was enamored by it. I was like, wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
But I actually haven't even played the original, so I'm definitely excited to dive into this one. And yeah, how are your hype levels for Pokemon Snap? Did you play the original? Are you
Yes.
even a little bit excited for this one?
Yes, I did play the original and really enjoyed the original. Obviously, that came at a time where I was younger, so I don't know. I was probably less than 10, maybe around 10. I don't know. I don't know exactly when it came out, but I was around that age, and it obviously catered to me more back then. And kind of the more I stew on this, the more I'm like, all right, I don't know. I don't know how excited I'll be. I'm excited that people are finally getting this because a lot of people have been clamoring for this, like you said. Yeah, I'll be interested in it, but I don't know that I'll get it, day one or anything. I've kind of cooled down on it a little bit since it was announced, because I, like many other people, I loved the original, but I was also much younger at the time, and it was kind of a novelty, and taking the pictures, and I don't know. I'll probably wait on it, to be honest, especially at the $60 price point for it. So yeah, I don't know.
In 1999, I was 3 or 2, I think.
Okay,
I think I was 3. Yeah, so I definitely wasn't playing it.
It was 99, so that means I was 7. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Well, yeah. I hope to play it someday, the original. There's ways I can play it now that I will not say because I don't want to get arrested by Nintendo. But yeah. Anyways, moving on to our next story. Bungie Halo stats are going offline. Bungie's archive of old Halo stats, screenshots, and more are going offline next month. So it's our last chance to grab those screenshots, because Bungie has announced that it will close its Halo archive in February, which means player stats, screenshots, and files from the developers' Halo games will be gone forever. Yes. Players have now until February 9th to save their stats and files should they wish. Bungie notes that this only applies to player data. News articles, forums, and groups from the Halo era were imported into the current Bungie.net website 2013, so will remain online. So just the stats and the screenshots, as they said. End of an era there.
Yes.
Sad to see that go, but they gave fans a lot of time to grab those if they so desire. So that's awesome. That just didn't vanish one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, how are you feeling as the Halo man himself? How does this make you feel?
It's definitely it's sad, just because I spent so much time in all of their games back then. Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo Reach. All of those games I absolutely loved and played so many hours of them all. I just looked it up real quick. I played 6,534 matches of Halo 2 matchmaking. That's not even including custom games. So, and custom games was like such a huge deal back then, because literally I remember like you would play through matchmaking, and then at the end of matchmaking, people in the lobby, obviously you had voice chat, and people were like, hey, let's do a custom game, and you would get a group of people from matchmaking to play custom games like zombies and Tower of Power and all these cool things. And it's just, it brought so many great memories. I absolutely love that era of Bungie, and it is a sad thing that these stats are going to kind of go away, so to speak. 343 did do a little bit in regards to this on their side of things. They didn't transfer these stats, but they took over Halo Reach's stats, I believe, in 2013-ish. And so they have stats from that moving forward, but unfortunately all of this data they don't have. However, I followed Brian Gerard, who's the community manager for 343 on Twitter, and he did respond to someone who was asking like what the possibility would be for them to ask Bungie for the data and import that in somewhere on 343 site. And he said actually that's not something that they had talked about before, that he would go around and ask questions and see if that was possible. So that I thought that was kind of cool, that maybe they'd find a way to kind of salvage this data and just have, historical, because this is such a, I don't know. It's so nostalgic for me because I was living it like every day, coming home from school and playing this, and everyone was playing Halo 2 back then. It was, you look at your friends list, it was all Halo 2. So, yeah, it's very, very, very sad, but also it has to happen at some point because Bungie doesn't make Halo anymore. So it has to happen.
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Lana Vines said, hey, hi, Daniel, in the chat. Thank you, Lana Vines. You are the best. Appreciate it.
But yeah, I was just going to say, speaking of Bungie and what they're doing now with Destiny, while you were speaking about Halo and all the stats that you have, and hopefully they preserve it, I was looking up my stats for Destiny, because that's the Bungie game that I have fallen in love with and I've been playing since Destiny 1. And it's not as crazy as I thought. I think I'm at 630 hours on PS4 and 27 hours on PS4 as well. So I'm not sure why they're separate. And 430 on, or 320 on Steam. So that's like over 1,000 hours in Destiny.
Wow.
And before, and I know there's people out there that's like, those are rookie numbers. What are you talking about? Like, especially the Twitch streamers as well. But I was just thinking, I think about it a lot, like 10 years from now, 5 years from now, who knows, Destiny is going to maybe not be as popular as it is, and they're not going to be updating it. And it's going to be like, I can't imagine a world where I'm not playing Destiny anymore. Like, that's just such a game that has been in my life since it came out. So I guess I can imagine a life without Destiny because I've lived a life without Destiny. But now that it's here, it's like I can't imagine not playing that anymore. So I definitely understand to an extent. But yeah, it's crazy to see all that stuff just gone.
I don't even know what my Destiny stats would be, but I know Destiny 1 I spent a ton of time in, so I don't know how much time exactly, and I probably wouldn't be able to find it if I looked it up right now because I haven't been on Bungie's site in so long. But
if you type wasted time on Destiny, there's a specific site just for that. So if you type in wasted time for Destiny, you could type in your username and it tells you everything. It's pretty great.
Oh, okay. I'll look that up while we move on. But yes. S. Rankin says, excellent show, boys. Thank you. You're the best.
The best.
Around. No one's going to let us down.
Moving on. Well, that's all of our PXN news of the week. I did want to just mention one little thing. As we're talking about Pokemon throughout the show, there have been some rumors that they might be making a Sinnoh remake, so the Diamond and Pearl games, which has me super excited. Still very rumor-based right now. I don't know if you have any history with that game in particular, but that's one of my favorite Pokemon games. So I really hope that's true. But yeah, that's still yet to be confirmed. But something that I saw roaming around as well. Gotcha. But yeah, moving on to what we have been playing. As I mentioned a little bit, Destiny 2, of course. I'm playing more Destiny 2. The new gun, Hawkmoon, not a new gun, but a returning gun from the original game has returned. And I am doing the exotic quest for that so I can acquire it, because a new quest arrived yesterday that allows you to get random rolls for the gun, which usually doesn't happen for exotics. Usually they are set rolls, and that's what you get with the exotic. So this is really unique for the game and the weapon. So I'm hoping to get the weapon and then complete the quest so I can farm for a perfect Hawk Moon. So that's been something that I've been doing. And all this Pokemon talk, I've been getting back into Pokemon in so many different ways, collecting Pokemon cards, excited for Pokemon Snap. And I have picked up Pokemon Soul Silver for the DS because it's one that I haven't played yet. And I've heard that it is one of the best Pokemon games. And so far, it's holding up really well. So I'm enjoying my time with that as well. And so, yeah, that's basically the two games I've been playing, Destiny 2 and Pokemon Soul Silver.
Nice. Roro, I looked it up, and I can't find any specific stats on Destiny 1, unfortunately. But Destiny 2, I've spent 92 hours, which that's a lot less than what I spent in Destiny 1, because my time has been, like, gotten less as time has gone on. So I think Destiny 1, I was probably close to, like, 800 or 900 hours or so. But
yes. Yeah, I'm looking at it here too, and I'm wondering. I didn't see Destiny 1 stuff either. It's Destiny 2 and then another Destiny 2. I think one is Steam and one is PlayStation.
Console.
But yeah, I didn't get any Destiny 1 stats either. Maybe they erased that as well.
Yeah, that's
so
possible.
sad.
So sad.
So sad.
The games I've been playing, Roro.
But yes, what have you been playing, Daniel?
Black Ops Cold War. I played a little bit of that. I had some people ask me to play multiplayer with them, so I played some multiplayer. Enjoyed my time with it, but
okay, I think I cut out there. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
I enjoyed my time with Cold War multiplayer, but it's just more Call of Duty. I don't think I need to explain that any further. I haven't jumped into the campaign yet, which I still want to do that, and I also want to check out zombies because I'm a big fan of the zombies modes in Call of Duty. So I'll check out those eventually. But I've also went back to and finally continued Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which, man, I love that game. It's so good. I wish I had, I wish I've played so much more of it, but I've barely scratched the surface. I think I'm now like 5 or 6 hours in. Before I was like an hour and a half in. So I'm slowly getting there, but, I really love that game. I think it's underrated how good the exploration in that game is, though. Like, I legitimately think that this is the first game since Breath of the Wild to use like a similar style of climbing to Breath of the Wild. It doesn't have like a stamina or anything like that, but you can literally climb anything. You can climb mountains and stuff. Like, it's so much fun.
Nice.
That you could never do in previous Assassin's Creed games. You would always have to have like those specific footholds or points that you're grabbing, whereas in Valhalla, it's very like seamless. You're just grabbing, rocks and you're literally, you scale giant mountains. It's awesome. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that. And actually the little dice game that's inside of Valhalla is super fun as well. Like, I literally got myself playing that. Like, I replayed this guy, the AI, obviously, about like, I don't know, 20 times because I was just having so much fun with that little mini game. So yeah, Valhalla definitely. If I had played more Valhalla, I'd probably it would be up there in my Game of the Year rankings if I had actually played it more. But yeah, I'm starting to get there. Obviously, Hitman coming out today is going to wreck that, but I don't know. We'll see.
Nice. Speaking of mini games within games, in Pokemon Soul Silver, I had something similar where there's a town called Goldenrod City, and there's a casino in there, and there's a Pokemon coin game. It's literally just called the coin game. And I spent a good hour just playing that, just not battling, just playing the coin game in Pokemon Soul Silver. So yeah, when a game has a good mini game in there and you just get lost in it and forget that you're playing an entirely different game sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah. Moving on to our topic of the show. We're going to be talking about CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk 2077, and Jason Schreier's new report on the development of the game.
Yeah.
So, as many of you may or may not know, Jason Schreier is a games journalist who works now for Bloomberg, who usually does articles like this. So, when there's a troubled development, you can usually rest assured that Jason Schreier is going to find out why it was troubled.
Yeah.
He's going to usually do some investigating, and for better or for worse, you're going to find out what happened. So, he did just that with Cyberpunk 2077, as admittedly I was hoping he would do, because I definitely didn't want to know what happened. I'm still waiting on I'm still waiting on what happened with Kojima and Konami. I'm still waiting on that story. Hopefully he finds that out someday. But yeah, I'm sure you read the article as well, but I have some quotes here just to pull from, some ones that I thought were interesting. So, and we also have Adam Badowski, who is the head of the studio of CD Projekt Red, who read his article and had some responses that we're going to go over as well. But one of the first quotes that I wanted to read was Jason writes in his message, Adam, I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm going to call him Adam. In his message, Adam concedes that the company underestimated the task. He said that because the game city was so packed and the disk bandwidth of the old gen consoles is what it is, it constantly challenged us. While the company extensively tested before the game's release, Adam said it did not show any of the issues players experienced. Developers who worked on the game argued otherwise, saying the company saying that many common problems were discovered. The staff just didn't have time to fix them. So that is the first quote that I wanted to talk about, that the many bugs and issues that we saw on PS4 and Xbox One that they said that they didn't see, the people who actually worked on the game are saying otherwise. So that is not good, obviously. And the only solution I have for this particular problem is to work on it more. But I understand that there's investors to impress and keep happy. So I understand there's two sides to this coin, but as an outsider looking in, the solution usually seems so simple to me. But of course, I'm not a game developer, and I don't know all the inner workings of how this stuff works. What do you think about this first one?
Yeah. So as I'll explain in a little bit when we get to it, I come down a little harder on Jason Schreier this time, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But in regards to that quote, yes, like I think that's something everyone was like, yes, how do you not see all of these bugs? Like, there's no way they didn't see all those bugs. And when the CD Projekt Red people were saying, oh, the upper management were saying, oh, we didn't see these bugs and they weren't reported and all this, it's like, that you can't believe that. That's like, there was gigantic game-breaking bugs in the console ports of the game. Like, you can't, there's literally no way you could say you didn't see them. So yeah, I definitely I agree with Schreier in that regard, because it's like, yeah, duh, that's obvious, I think. But yeah.
I'll move on to the next one, which I think is what you were referring to with what you may come down harder on him, and which I think I agree with. We're talking about the same part. But fans and journalists were this is another quote from Jason Schreier. Fans and journalists were wowed by CD Projekt or Cyberpunk 2077's ambition and scale. What we didn't know was the demo was almost entirely fake. CD Projekt hadn't yet finalized and coded the underlying gameplay systems, which is why so many features such as car ambushes were missing from the final product. Developers said they felt like the demo was a waste of months that should have gone toward making the game. So Jason Schreier claims that one of the E3 demos that was shown off was fake. Other developers are backing him up on this, but what I think is more important, that they think is it was a waste of time to create the demo, which I think I can agree with as well. But yeah, what do you think about this one? I think I saw you tweeting about this particular quote actually earlier this week as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think the major, as you said, the major problem isn't him saying that that the demo was a waste of time, because obviously the more time you put into an E3 demo, the less time you have actually spending on the actual game. So yes, that's detrimental. So yes, I agree with that. But like you're saying, like, it doesn't make sense to say that the demo was completely fake. It wasn't fake. It was something, it was a vertical slice. So E3 demos, if anyone is out there and doesn't know how this typically works, developers create a vertical slice of their game. So they cut out a section of their game and say, let's polish this and make this as good as it possibly can be and try to make it, what our vision is for the actual game. Let's try to make it in this little vertical slice. And that's what an E3 demo is. And almost every developer that presents something at E3 or a bigger trade show or something else makes this kind of content. So it's not unique to CD Projekt Red. And for Jason Schreier to say it's fake isn't really genuine in saying it's fake. It's not really fake. It's just, it's something that's pulled out of the game and polished in order to possibly reach what their end goal is. And it doesn't always end up that way, because obviously game development is not an easy process. There's tons of different things that go on with game development. You have hundreds of people working on this game, and strict deadlines and corporate on you and stockholders and all of this. And I feel like sometimes Jason Schreier doesn't think about those things. He often he reports on it, and that's great. He has great reporting ability, but like at the same time, you have to step back and be like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. This is different. So that's kind of my biggest problem with Jason in that regard. And it did rub me the wrong way, because the day after he posted, and this is strictly my opinion on this, you may not agree with this part, but which is fine. But like, to me, the day after he posted all of the Cyberpunk stuff, he was promoting his book, which I don't know. Yes, it's his own Twitter account, and yes, he has a book, he wants to promote it and all that, but it just feels like the timing of it, he was trying to get views and like people's eyeballs in order to get sales of it. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong for me to say, but it just, I don't know. I don't personally feel like it feels necessarily right in that regard, especially with things being reported that aren't actually completely accurate. And like, I've experienced that firsthand with Halo Infinite, with all the stuff that came out last year about Halo Infinite, that people were just reporting just ridiculous things that weren't true. And I was just so tired of it. And I made that YouTube video because I was just so sick of it. And it feels like media at this point, and I'm saying all media, in my opinion, is getting to the point where they're just looking for clicks more than they're looking for, actual thought,
Yeah.
So
there's been articles where the headline is one thing and the article itself is like completely different to what the headline is saying, like kind of contradicting what the title itself is saying. It's like, here, come for this, but actually we don't actually think that.
Yeah.
It's like what is going on here? So I agree in that aspect.
Yeah.
And what Jason said about it being fake, Adam Badowski also disagreed with. Of course he did, because he is the head over there. But I agree with some of what he said. So I'm going to take from his response here, which he showed on or posted on Twitter. So he responds to that quote that we just read. It's hard for a trade show game demo not to be a test of vision or vertical slice 2 years before the game ships, but that doesn't mean it's fake. Compare that demo with the game. Look at the I'm not sure what that. I'm sure it's a scene from the game. Look at the dum-dum scene or the car chase, or many other things. What the people reading your article may not know is that games are not made in a linear fashion and start looking like a final product only a few months before launch. If you look at that demo now, it's different, yes, but that's what the work in work in progress watermark is for. Our final game looks and plays way better than that demo ever was. He also states that, and if we get a bit more granular about our release, the vision was presented in the vision we presented in this demo evolved into something that got multiple 9s out of 10s and 10s out of 10s on PC from many renowned gaming outlets in the world. So, from that response, I agree with some of it. I disagree with some other parts of it as well, mainly the focusing on the good reviews and
Right.
obviously there were and the demo playing better than the game playing better than the demo. I don't know, but I do agree with the watermark. There's so many games that you like Watch Dogs and
Yeah.
so many games, Anthem, where they do the alpha in progress, still being working on. So when the game comes out and it doesn't look like that, they can say, well, it looked like that then, but we realized that we can't do that.
Yeah.
So we had to scale it back a bit. So that's something that I hope honestly changes, and that the people making the games can be a little bit more honest with the people purchasing them. But it is something that we've come to expect and realize that what we're seeing right now isn't going to be what we get as much as we hope it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just not the case. It doesn't, unfortunately, yet work like that. So hopefully someday we will, when we see Anthem gameplay, it'll look like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as of right now, not yet.
Not yet.
But any response about Adam's response you think that you want to
Yeah.
dig into there?
Yeah, like you said, there's things there that you can take away from it, and you can be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But then there's other parts you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like the vertical slice, we as we talked about, that makes sense because that's something that happens. And you have to have when you go to E3, you have to show something. You can't. You can't just say, here's a CG trailer for a game that comes out in 6 months, because people will be like, what are we playing? And you can't necessarily show them like your current code base of like your live game necessarily. It depends on the game, because you may have parts that are working and parts that aren't working, and because then you're giving the consumer a message that the game is not going to look at or perform or do whatever they're intending to do. They just haven't had time to get there yet. So that's kind of where the vertical slice comes from, because they can piece that out and say, let's make this look as good as we can. Try to get to our vision, what we want it to be, but it may not necessarily get there. It is a tricky thing, like you said, and I think at the end of the day, I think the truth always lies somewhere between one extreme or the other. So, like, you have Jason Schreier's reporting, you have Adam's comments on Twitter, and the truth is somewhere in the middle, where you just kind of have to read both of them and kind of decipher for yourself. Okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. This doesn't. I don't know. It would be nice to have just more, honesty and more, thoughtfulness when it comes to this kind of stuff. But unfortunately, I don't think that's where we're at this time.
Yeah. So. Yeah. As we'll see in this next part that I'm pulling, where it just seems they're caught in semantics, and just the back and forth of trying to defend your reputation, where he was speaking to or responding to Jason's. Most of the staff knew and openly said it wouldn't be ready for release in 2020. And he responds, you've talked to 20 people, some being ex-employees, only one of whom was not anonymous. I wouldn't call that most. Mm-hmm. Of the over 500 people, staff openly said what you claim. I wouldn't call that most of the over 500 people, staff. Okay. Yeah. Well, he's saying that you didn't interview enough people to say that is true, basically.
Yeah.
Which I don't entirely agree with. I understand what he's saying, but whether it be 19, 20, or 15 people, if people working at your company said that, then it probably happened. And there's more in the article that supports that. Yeah. And the game itself supports that. The thing that you released is very clear that it shouldn't have come out just yet. But yeah, there's only one more quote that I wanted to share, but I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that last one.
Yeah, like you said, if there's 20 people, there's gonna be more. He
Yeah,
only spoke to 20 people. There's gonna be
can
more. But it is, again, it's like it is misleading for Schreier to say most of the staff knew,
most
because
true.
that's not really you
That's true.
don't know that, but you can infer that, I guess.
Yeah,
But yeah, I guess that's semantics
yeah,
at that point. But yeah,
yeah. Which, yeah, you're right. He didn't interview most, but
yeah,
yeah, he could have adjusted his wording a bit better. But as you also said, he interviewed 20, and there's going to be more, and he's probably not going to waste his entire day interviewing every single employee
yeah.
there. So, which it seems like Adam suggests that he do to find the quote unquote truth. But moving on to the last quote that I pulled, this is from one of the audio programmers or former audio programmers. His last name is Jaku Biak, I believe. Um, there were times when I would crunch up to 13 hours a day. A little bit over that was my record, probably. And I would do 5 days a week working like that, said Jakubiak, the former audio programmer, adding that he quit the company after getting married. I have some friends who have lost their families because of these sort of shenanigans. And basically, he wasn't trying to be one of those people, so he quit. He decided to put his family before his job and focus on that. So respect to him, but also, oh my gosh, 13 hours a day for 5 days is crazy. I try to imagine what that is like, and I've done a 12-hour shift maybe twice in my entire retail thing, and I have nightmares about those one-off days. So I
Yeah.
can't imagine having consecutive days like that. And I understand it's a different environment, and I'm
Mhm.
sure they love what they're doing, but even even then it can't be healthy to to be doing that. And I know there's an argument they're getting paid overtime and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't seem right to me still that people had to work overtime
Yeah.
13 hours a day for 5 days a week to get essentially
Yeah.
uh, not essentially a video game
Yeah.
out to uh, out to the public, and it wasn't and still wasn't ready. So
Yeah.
just pace yourself a little bit better. Management needs to do a little bit better with managing the creatives and the developers because they deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I think that in terms of like crunch, it's such a difficult topic
Yeah.
because like it happens so much in the video game industry now that it's just like it's normal practice, and for good or bad, it's there. And I think the biggest thing is like I think you need to reward. I don't know. It's a tricky balance. You have to reward people for, wanting to put that extra time, or them giving themselves up for more time to work on the game. But then at the same time, you don't want to alienate people who don't want to put in all those insane hours. So it's like it's such a tricky balance. And like games are in a very unique situation where a lot of the final touches of games is like the most difficult part. Like polishing the game is some of the most difficult parts because you're fixing bugs and
Mm-hmm.
all of the last minute things that come in. You have to prepare for that, and yeah, it's very tricky how managers have to kind of figure that out a little bit better to try to help avoid crunch or as much as possible. But yeah, as of right now, the industry is kind of, reliant on crunch in terms of, we've got X amount of weeks left. We have to ship this product. Whereas I feel like the movie and television industry, they have deadlines, but it's not like, it's not like they're rebuilding a character animation from scratch, to hit a certain deadline. I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky situation with games because of how complex they are. They're
Mm-hmm.
essentially movies and TV and all that,
So many
and
things in one.
furthermore, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
true. Yeah. Again, I don't know how they solve it. Um, it is a difficult one to tackle. I agree. because, like you said, there's people who aren't told to crunch, and they do it, and they sometimes are rewarded for it, and sometimes they aren't. But sometimes they are told to crunch, and they don't want to, and they want to keep their job, and it's just such a it's a tough one to handle. But I always point to the indie games and companies that don't do it. Like, they're smaller companies than CD Projekt Red that have done it and have had successful games, just like Hades. Hades is the most recent example of that, with super giant games where crunch was not a thing, and they put out one of the best games last year. So I can only imagine what CD Projekt Red could do if the management was a little bit kinder to their employees and didn't put such a strict deadline on when these things need to come out. I mean, as much as I wanted the game at the time, we had waited 7 years already. What's a little bit more? As I guess I can say that now because the game's out.
Yeah.
But who knows what I would say if they did actually delay it back then. But yeah, it's definitely a tough one. But
And
that's the last. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and maybe that's the product of like announcing a game far too soon.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that, and yeah, I was that's well ended. I totally agree with that though. But is there anything else from the article or Adam's responses that you wanted to touch on before we roll into our last segment?
No, I believe that's it.
All right. Well, moving on. Oh, did I press? Oh no, that was a notification. Sorry, I heard something in my ears. I was like, "What is happening? What did I do?" But moving on to our final segment, what we have been working on. Daniel, I don't know if you are working on anything today, but I wanted to continue this segment that you introduced last week.
Yeah.
So
I haven't had a chance to complete my vision, but I have something in the works. I don't know how soon it'll be, but yeah, you can follow me at DanIsDTM on Twitter. I always post some stupid stuff on there, like Phillip Rivers retiring today as our quarterback for the Colts. So looking for our fourth quarterback in 4 years. So not good, but yeah, that's right.
Sports.
Yeah.
Sports.
Yeah.
For me, I am working on writing something about Nintendo and kind of what we're talking about with talking about games that, where are they? Like Bayonetta and stuff like that. I'm going to be writing and talking about Nintendo Directs and if they should return to their original format where it's like 40 minutes talking about a bunch of random stuff, or if they should continue with Nintendo Minis and more focused Directs, which I think are way better and serve a better purpose than as much as hype as the usual Directs are. I think it'll be better if they just continue with this. But yeah, that's what I'm working on, talking about Nintendo Directs. But yeah, that's about it right now. Thank you everyone for watching and joining us both live on Twitch and on YouTube, as well as podcast services like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Stitcher. Thank you, Daniel. And later will be greater.
Much love.